Now we have a quorum. So I'd like to call the meeting of the Palm Springs Public Arts Commission to order. And can we have a roll call, Jay?
Yes. Commissioner Murray.
Here.
Commissioner Yanni.
Present.
Commissioner Pritchard.
Here.
Vice Chair, Acting Chair Merrigan.
Here.
Chair Sheffer has indicated she would not be in attendance, as has Commissioner Gladstone. Commissioner Favreau has indicated she may arrive late. So we do have a quorum.
Thank you very much. So I wanted to ask for an acceptance of the agenda, but we wanted to remove, to postpone item C3 until the next meeting.
That sounds good to me. Is that any
yeah.
objections?
No.
No objection. No.
I'd like to make a motion to postpone item C3 until our next Public Arts Commission meeting and accept the agenda with that revision.
Second the motion.
Awesome. So do we want to have a vote on that?
I think we're okay. Jay, are we okay with just a regular
Yeah, just all.
amended acceptance?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Favor aye.
Madam Chair, I need to go off screen. I'm kind of multitasking, but I'm here.
Oh, no worries. Thank you for your quorumness.
Your quorumness, I like.
Quorumness. Okay.
So now is the time for public comments. This time has been set aside for members of the public to address the Public Arts Commission on items of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the commission and agenda items if members of the public cannot be present later in the meeting at the time the item is heard by the commission. Additionally, members of the public may address the commission on each item listed on the posted agenda at the time each item is heard. Although the Public Arts Commission values your comments pursuant to the Brown Act, it generally cannot take any action on items not listed on the posted agenda. 5 minutes are assigned for each speaker. So do we have anyone that wants to make public comments tonight?
I have not received any request for public comments, but if anyone in the audience wishes to make public comments, now would be the time. We have no public comments, Madam Chair.
Okay, great. So now we're going to go on to item A. Richard Noble has a proposal that he would like to share with us. So Richard, you are up. And if you could spell your first and last name for the minutes.
Yes, good evening. It's Richard, R-I-C-H-A-R-D, and the last name is Noble, N-O-B as in boy, L-E. And
Take it away.
all right, thank you. It's nice to meet all of you. It's the first time I've addressed the Public Arts Commission. I think first I want to tell you how I got here. First of all, I'm a resident of Palm Springs for the last 13 years, and I think I have some bragging rights as to be the first gay man to literally backpack openly the rainbow flag across our nation in 2011 and 12, and was a guest of the Obamas in the White House, calling on Congress to file a civil rights bill for the LGBT community. And 2 years after my walk, the Human Rights Campaign, the senior legal counsel, Sarah Warbelow of the Human Rights Campaign, approached David Cicilline, the first district of Rhode Island, and Senator Merkley of Oregon, and asked them, they said, it's time. We've re-elected Obama. We have marriage equality, and let's draft this bill. And it's now known as the Equality Act. And it's the bill that President Biden said that he would sign into law. And what it does is it takes sexual orientation and gender identity and adds it to American civil rights laws. And it is the final cornerstone of equality under the law for all Americans. And when this bill gets signed into law by the president, as he has promised to do, we will have completed our full circle of equality and rights for LGBT Americans under the law in the United States at 100%. And it's a very exciting time, I think, in our country. And so how I got here, I'm a little premature. I don't have a big presentation. I simply emailed Councilman Coors, who's been with me on this journey. He was actually in the White House with his partner, her husband, when I was there. Is I was downtown and I was watching some of the artists down there paint the rainbow bench. And I'm all like, and a light came on to me, and we need a LGBT civil rights mural of different races, of Native Americans, of military people, of same-sex couples, and just with that rainbow flag with a banner that says equal under the law. And so I emailed Councilman Coors, and I'm all like, here's my idea. What do you think about it? And he forwarded it to, who did he forward it to?
Chair Scheffer. Chair Scheffer, probably.
To Ann Scheffer.
Yeah.
And then Ann Scheffer told me about the Arts Commission. So Councilman Coors and has been helping me sort of get to you. And I'm a little premature because I don't know the process. I know that I wanted to do a mural on arenas at one point, and the business owners were like, no, we're not really interested. And so I'm not really sure about how to go about the process. Now I'm reading some about grant money. So I'm really interested in having sort of like the first equal under the law LGBT civil rights leadership mural in our city to celebrate the signing of the Equality Act when it's signed, to be sort of like, have a ceremony with Mayor Holstedge and make this a nice celebration in our community. With your leadership and your direction, I'm willing to get the artists who are working downtown. I met with them and they were like, they're excited about the idea and they want to paint and they want to be a part of it. So that's where I'm at. When the rainbow crosswalks were going up, I put up a Facebook page and I interviewed all the business owners on arenas. And I said, would you like a rainbow crosswalk? And they were all excited and they were yes. So every business owner I interviewed and they said, yes, they wanted a rainbow crosswalk. And I took it to the city council. We looked at tarmacs and they looked at a budget. And then what I recognized over time was that the rainbow crosswalks kind of looked crappy over time. They were beat up, they were driven over, they were walked on. And I pulled out of that idea. I wanted something that sort of was beautiful and made sense and would last over time. And when I saw these benches being painted downtown, I'm all like, yeah, that makes sense. It's going to last over time and they're going to cover it. And then I thought this mural kind of will do the same thing. So I think that's sort of why I emailed Jeff Coors and asked him if he would help me move forward. So I would love your feedback. I don't know if you can give me feedback in this sort of a setting or an email on how I could move forward in finding a place, finding a budget. We certainly have the artists. It's certainly the right time. And I look forward to working with you on this sort of a very exciting project for our city. And I think that it would bring a lot of tourists and a lot of photographs. It certainly hit a lot of magazines across our nation. From The Advocate, who knows what kind of art magazines it would get into. But I'm excited about the project.
So you're on our agenda, so we can engage with you with
Okay.
questions on it. So have you thought of where have you looked into a wall like anywhere that had you gotten that far yet?
Well, I mean, I've looked around town a little bit. There are walls I know over by Sunrise Park in that building by the skate the skate park. I don't know if it's being used. I think there's a mural up there already. There's a couple of businesses on Arenas. Maybe I could reapproach them. Maybe I was hoping maybe you had some ideas. It'd be a rather large mural. There's a lot of civil rights leaders, that I would like to have. It's not going to be 3 or, I'm talking 12 or 15 people throughout our history. So no, I haven't given, I don't know the layout and what's available. I was hoping that you'd be able to help out with that.
Yeah, Russell.
Yeah, if I can just jump in here, Richard, I've over the last couple of years have engaged in conversations with most of the merchants on Arenas. And there are 2 walls that we had talked about doing murals over the last couple of years. And of course, certainly the last year has been a little bit challenging, so things sort of fell to the wayside. But one of the walls identified is the west-facing wall of Hunters. And they have talked about a similar type of installation that we'd like to do, recognizing important figures over the last few decades in gay rights, that sort of thing, to culminate in this sort of signing of the Equal Rights Act. So that is something we could certainly re-engage with them. There's also the south-facing wall of Giannis. No, what is the, yeah, Giannis, the restaurant on Arenas. They were open to doing a mural. So offline, I could certainly reach out to you, maybe bring in Dean from Black Book and a couple of the other merchants, Jennifer from Hunters.
Okay.
We've done a couple of art activations with them. So we could start a little subcommittee and brainstorm on some ideas and see how to move forward if we wanted to concentrate on being on Arenas, which seems appropriate.
That'd be great. Are you talking about the wall facing Arenas?
On the Johannes restaurant, it would be the south-facing wall, which faces Arenas.
Yeah, I love that wall. That was my original wall that I
Yeah.
picked.
Yeah, because we were looking at that wall a couple of years ago to do a mural, which we actually ended up doing on the Palm Springs Cultural Center.
Huh.
So that's certainly the owner, Johannes, was amenable to a mural there. And that one is easier because we can actually paint that wall, whereas the west-facing wall of Hunters, because of its architectural significance, it would have to be something that would be attached to the wall and not directly onto the wall itself.
Mm, mm, mm.
So when you say west facing, you mean so facing that parking area
Yes.
to the left of Hunters?
Yeah, to the left if you're looking at the front of Hunters, correct.
Madam Chair and Richard, just as an FYI, several years ago, the Public Arts Commission celebrated with the LGBTQ community with a piece that I think is currently at City Hall, The Butterflies and the lady laying down. I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of it. Commissioner Yanni may know.
Cenotaph.
Yes, yes. And there were booths out there when celebrated. It was just a monumental event. So we have celebrated. My point is, it's time to do something again. So thank you for your submission, your idea.
Yeah, I think the idea, it's very timely. Like if this legislation passes, it would be an amazing thing to have a mural already up and ready, for it, to then celebrate it. So
So what I'd like to do is, Russell, I love the idea of putting together a subcommittee, and the 2 artists that are heading the downtown Bents project. I think there's the guy out of Palm Desert, he's a teacher. They're willing to sit down with me and begin drafting the mural, so that I could bring it back to you, so we could look at it and see what it looks like, the figures that we want to put in it, the different kind of people we want to draw out of history to put into the mural. So I'd be willing to start working on it.
Yeah, I think what we can do is probably tomorrow I'll email you, because I think Anne sent me an email from you or CC'd me on an email with you. Then we can also engage Jennifer Hunters and Dean from Black Book, just to see, read on their interest level, and then first an interpretation of what they would like to move forward with, and then start to bring in artists and get some proposals and head toward design and then budget. And completion, but certainly first meeting with a couple of merchants to get their interest level and activity and get them engaged, and then we could move forward.
And please, let's not forget Arthur Ashe and James Baldwin, African-American activist.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you.
Al, do you want to be part of the committee on this?
I can help out where I am, or whatever you're needing, not a problem.
Cool.
So as a tennis player, I won't forget Arthur Ashe.
Yeah,
Great.
there won't be a splash of white faces, I can tell you that.
Okay, so we'll be in touch on email.
Okay, great. So that's it.
Well, thank you, Richard. That was
You're-
great. So I
you're welcome.
appreciate
Thank
you
you.
coming and
Enjoy meeting all of
look
you.
forward to moving on it.
Excellent. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. So now we have report from the chair, but
The chair.
I don't really have a report.
Vice Chair.
So that ends the report from the chair. So should we move on to C1, which is the contract for nail to nail? If everybody was able to read that. Tom's going to give us an update on it. Oh, hey, Shonda.
Hi, hello,
We had
everyone.
a really great meeting with
Alicia.
yeah, sorry, I was trying to find your contract here. So we
Okay.
had a great meeting with Alicia, and it was that was a great brainstorm. So thank you very much. And Tom, do you want to give an update?
Sure. Yeah. So just one of the things that we talked about in the previous meeting for the other commissioners was this, that some of it seemed like it was kind of overlapping with things that we have done with Art Collective before in terms of the database that they're creating and things like that. So we got a clear sense of sort of there won't be duplicative work, right? So it's not like Alicia would be doing, you know, taking the same information and doing the same thing that that Art Collective has done, but it's more like using a lot of that information, including their wonderful photos and things like that, and kind of packaging it into this other database that would make it a little bit more usable, workable for the commission. And so when we talked, it was, you know, we just got a lot clearer sense and a sort of clearer scope of what she would be wanting, you know, what she would be working on. And as you can see from the proposal, right, so it's sort of more of a timeline in terms of what it's doing. And so some of the things that we still need to discuss would be things like exactly what we want to be, you know, searchable in this database. We had talked a little bit about, you know, in the last meeting as well about what would be public and not, but we were saying how, you know, like a lot of this could be something that people could actually access, you know, not things like insurance values and things like that, but things like, you know, when the piece was cleaned last, or, you know, when it's going to be cleaned again. And so these are things that are much more kind of in Alicia's scope rather than Art Collective, which of course is more, you know, focused on cleaning and maintenance and, you know, keeping the pieces in good shape. So, so I think in our subcommittee meeting with Alicia, we had a good sense of, you know, what this would be, how it's distinct from what Art Collective is already doing. And it seems like something that we certainly need, since we don't have any access to, we don't have a database of all the works right now, you know, that we can, where everything is in one place. So this would be an ongoing project that could be maintained.
And the ongoing project, as it's maintained, who will Alicia be maintaining it, or will we have access to update as we go on?
Alicia, correct me if I'm wrong, my sense was that it would be something that, you know, commissioners could have access to, but it would also be something, I mean, I imagine Alicia would be keeping it up, you know, while she's still around or still wants to. But it could be some, you know, then there might be a need in the future for some other person, right, to take over the work of that, but it would be obviously the commission would, would have the database and access to it. Do you want to add to that, Alicia?
Just to say that one of the things that's important when you do have a collections management system is consistency and standardization. And the one of the main issues with the inventory that you have that's outdated is that there's data in different fields and it's not consistent throughout the column per artwork. So it's requiring a lot of cleanup, and I need to do that with city records, that kind of thing. So it's helpful to have one or two people updating the system, perhaps a commissioner working with me. We both have that capability, because not everyone needs to learn that standardization. Not everyone needs to know exactly what are the right words. What do you call this in art terms, so to speak? That makes sense?
Does that answer your question, Shonda?
Yes, it does. So like one other commissioner, including her, would be able to update it. So yeah.
I think that would be wise. We can always change that. It's really to be determined by the commissioners, of course.
And now, is it is that like something that you would be charging us to train each commissioner when it's passed the torch, or is it something really simple like copy, paste, click, delete?
It should be fairly simple. I would probably spend a little time making kind of a guide or an instruction manual, something not too complicated. One of the things that we talked about in the subcommittee was the need for me to show you a few databases so that the proper system is chosen for you, that it will have the capabilities that you want. So it's going to be a little bit of a to be determined following some meeting. What I said I would do was to look at the broad scope, maybe not all 75 packages on the market, but a handful, and then come back to the subcommittee or the whole commission with a little slideshow of what you can get if you go with this and what this is going to cost and that kind of thing. So step one really is to try to figure out what you have.
Okay. That'd be nice to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Any other questions on the contract?
Madam Vice Chair, do you need a
Yes.
motion? Do you need a motion?
Oh,
With
is
amendment?
there any more discussion or anyone have any other questions or?
I'm ready for motion.
Well, I guess I'll just say one thing. From our discussion, Alicia, the commission will really Alicia will really bring us recommendations, and then we'll be the ones driving what, the final product is, what we want it to be. So it will be commission driven in that respect. Right, Tom?
That was my sense, but also just, also ensuring that we're kind of using standard guidelines, standard guidance for collection management, so that we're not reinventing the wheel, but we're, making it useful for our purposes. But there are obviously, as you see, there's a million of these programs out there, so we can sort of figure out which one works best for our needs.
And we can use it in the long term.
And we can use it in the long term.
Okay, cool. Then if we don't have any more discussion, can I have a motion on the item?
Go for it, Al. Wherever you
Madam
are.
Vice Chair, I make a motion that we accept this contract as written.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, great. And then can we have a vote?
Doing a voice vote or
So
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. No one opposed.
Any abstentions? No.
No.
So the ayes have it. So,
Yay.
so thank you very much. Welcome, Alicia. That was
Thank you
really
very
excited
much.
about this project.
I'm excited about it too. It's fantastic.
We are too.
Amen.
Okay, cool. So, so next we have reapproving our guidelines for the CARES grants. So what Anne did was she updated the CARES grants sheet from last year and with new dates, and added the word temporary. So all under item 2 on the neighborhood CARES grants, CARES and neighborhood grants, all our installations or murals funded through mini grants will be temporary until December 31st, 2021. When they will be reviewed by the Commission for longer term arrangements. So, so this takes us through this year since we're still in our COVID mess. Continuing with the program that we had voted on, and we are, attempting to push it forward now with now that we're opening up a little bit, being able to have access to more people. So does anyone have any comments, discussion, or any thoughts on anything they would want to add or modify? I know we voted on this even just a few months ago, but I think we're re-voting on it to help Cindy and the city with approving expenses and projects for this.
Well, I will just say that having been orchestrated several of our grant programs and activations over this past year, I think the program is running pretty successfully. So just doing the extension to run through the end of this year seems just like a good status quo position to take. I understand that with our soon to be changing and the city manager, we might need to keep them perhaps a little bit more apprised when we're doing some of our art activations. Because Dr. David Reddy has been very good over the past year, 2020, of just sort of giving us the go ahead to, with a couple of commissioners, approve and move forward on all of our art activations. So I think now for this term going through the end of December of 2021, as long as when we're putting our art activations in the process with Sarah and getting everything lined up as an activation, as long as we're keeping the city manager's office apprised at what the scope of the project is and what the visual is, then I think that will help us as we go forward to, as they say, cross all of our T's and dot all of our I's.
Definitely. So
I just had a question. So we're not devoting more money to the program. We're just sort of putting an end date on it. Is that what we're doing?
well, the original end date was this past December 31st. Like everything we said everything was going to be temporary until then, and then we'd vote on it. But COVID has lasted way longer than we planned.
Right.
So yeah, so this thing is just extending the same thing we passed last year until December, this coming December.
Right. But we had already voted a couple meetings ago on adding money to it, right, for future projects or ongoing projects. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's really just the date, that extending it.
Yeah, and then I wanted to ask you if, the consensus to either leave this the way it is, but under types of CARES projects. One thing that I had always wanted to have in here and was working on that is storefront activations, installations on temporarily or permanently closed businesses. But I think we should add on open businesses as well. Because part of what that's something that kind of has changed with COVID, right? Like we went from everything was completely closed, but we're not in that mode anymore. We're in the kind of businesses under stress mode. So we're kind of opening. People are trying to get their businesses reopened. They're trying to not go out of business. So I think it's the same. It's the same spirit of the CARES, but we're kind of like we're extending it to December 31st. It's also the reality that, oh, there are businesses now that are open that really need like their space activated as well. So I think we should add that to the whatchamacallit.
Yeah, Tracy, if we're changing it, I don't agree that it should be this December. I think it should be next December. If we are afraid of COVID guidelines, I don't know. Everyone sounds really optimistic, but is that possible, or even it to go to June of 2022 to extend it? Because does it matter, or we'll just extend it when it comes to December, at the end of December, we'll just extend it again or get rid of the program?
So I think I have a similar question. So are we extending this deadline so that we're saying that the projects will stay up that long? So for example, a bench that we did under this project will stay up through the end of the year, and then at that point can be painted over or redone, or what is it exactly? What does the deadline mean? Like, does it mean
Yeah.
we're gonna change something, or does it
Well,
mean?
no, I don't think it really means anything. And benches are sort of separate to it, so it's a little bit more dealing with the window art activations, and or like we've got a couple of things coming up, the temporary art installation, which we'll discuss next, in Sunny Dunes. It's just putting it in place so that we know that this will certainly be in place until the end of 2021, even though there are installations or art activations that we did last year, which I suppose technically would have been ended at the end of 2020. Whereas here the wordage is we address each individual art activation at the end of the year to determine if it is indeed intended to stay longer. And then we'll just vote on those specific instances. And we have over the past year been doing art activations on businesses that actually are open, but we can certainly add that as a footnote under the types of care grant to include businesses that are open and have always been open. Although all businesses haven't always been open, everybody's been reopened. So
no, we keep going. That's why I think we should add the open or businesses that are.
Yeah, well, I'm certainly fine with under the asterisk of types of care grant, if you just add number 4, businesses that are currently open, or whatever words you want to use.
But essentially we're saying that the works will stay up at least that long. And then, I mean, just as a side note, are there any that are in bad shape already? Like, because I mean, some have been up for 6-8 months already, right? Are we concerned that some might?
Yeah, everything that we've done, because we've been maintaining any bench that those are sort of separate projects, but we've been maintaining those. The art activations that we did at Hunters, both the Freddie Mercury window and the surround for the patio, we've done repairs to that. So we're maintaining all of the temporary pieces that we're doing. So it just basically continues what we've been doing throughout the end of this year, realizing that come June, there's going to be a significant change in the makeup of the Arts Commission. So this keeps something in place for the new commissioners to work with.
Yeah, because we had originally said that we would vote on all of these ones by December last year, but we never did. Right, so this is kind of cleaning that up as well, right? So now we're extending all of the ones we already did, and then any new ones we do this year.
So I kind of think it makes sense. like Shonda says, to just maybe go ahead and go, June 2022, because presumably things that we're working on right now, they may get finished in the next month or two, and then you're basically saying it's up for a year, which I think is kind of what we had in mind. So maybe we should just say June 2022 instead.
Let's see here. So if we said,
But the idea would be that in June 2022, the commission, who's ever on, would be looking at all of these works and saying either, okay, maybe this one should go now because it's not holding up, or like what, I guess I'm trying, like, what are we imagining for the future of them?
Well, if I can interrupt, is
Sure.
Cindy with us in our meeting?
she was.
She's here. Yeah.
Or Jake?
I'm here.
I just wanted to ask from a city perspective, being that we do these as temporary art installations, if the city is more comfortable with us putting a shorter time frame on, that we would readdress at the end, before the end of December, or if it's, or I'm content with making it June of 2022, but I don't know if that is a longer period to sort of fall into a temporary art activation.
I don't know if I don't know which would be better. I think you could do through December and then extend it at that time if you desired that. And in the meantime, we can certainly get a gauge on where council's at for that. Instead of just doing it now till June, if you want to do it through December, and then we'll see where we are then.
Yeah, I think perhaps just doing it to the end of December of 2021 makes more sense, because as I said, there's going to be such a drastic change in the makeup of the commission. It's just, I mean.
Yeah, whichever everyone else is comfortable with, I'm fine with as well. If Cindy thinks December's better, then that's fine with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine with December. I think the idea of then extending it until June next year is actually. So maybe
Is what?
Is great. I think
Yeah.
that the idea of extending it longer is great. So maybe we use the December date today, and then just kind of like Cindy said, we kind of feel out if we can extend it to June, so we have an idea already in the next few months or something.
Yeah, I do want to remind, I mean, these, in my mind, these were always meant to be sort of fresh, temporary pandemic, what I'm saying? It's like, I don't want to get into, where we start, all of a sudden they become like permanent pieces and we're constantly fixing them and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I guess we have to sort of remember that we need to maybe let some of them go at some point.
Well, yeah, well, the saving grace there is most of the ones we have done are on storefronts that will be rented, and a new tenant will go in, so the art installation or activation will go away. So
right, good. But also, I mean, I think also what we've done is sort of light a spark. Like, so there could be pieces that we've done that may go away, or, we can paint them over or something. And then maybe that building owner will want to put something else up, to sort of create like a nice pattern or path going forward for future works, and, get the public involved, and saying they want these pieces, and give them the chance to put up new pieces.
And we can most certainly identify a piece that, if it's been up since perhaps July of last year, July of 2020, in a couple of months we might look at this piece and say, think it's really time for this particular one to go away, and we can just deal with that on an individual basis.
I mean, we could also say, they're temporary up to instead of until. So if something happened to something and we didn't want to restore it or something like that, we could paint over it. But they haven't been a problem either. So.
Well, and actually most of the agreements that we do, for example, the one that we're going to address in a few moments, the popsicle one, we make the agreement with the artist that it is going to be up and in place until the end of December of 2021. at which time it can be addressed, and on mutual agreement of the property owner, artist, and the Arts Commission, it can be extended. So, I mean, it's not like it's a hard line thing.
Mhm.
So are we kind of at a consensus of December 31st, thinking we'd like to do it later on at June or July 1 or whatever?
So,
I'm fine with either date, as long as the city is fine with us extending it through June of 2022. Why not?
but I think Cindy was recommending do December 1st, do December 31st first.
Right.
We'll look into
And
it.
just, yeah,
And then revisit. Is that
Right.
is that
so we
correct,
would
Cindy?
keep it the way it is, and because
Well, and I can't speak for council, obviously, but I will say that this is what went out with the agenda. City manager certainly reviewed it and saw that that was the December 31st date. I think it's certainly easier to have that as our date. And then when you get to December, if you want to extend all of them, if you want to extend some of them, you can address it.
That's great.
why don't we just do that?
So do we have a consensus on adding to item under the asterisk to the storefronts on temporarily or permanently or open, permanently closed or open businesses?
I have a question, Madam Vice Chair, about the open businesses. Do they need to, the owner, do they need to come to a public arts mission and request that, or do we not want to do that? How would that work for an open business? Do we approach them or do they approach us, or both?
Both. And then, so they would fill out the form on the website
Okay,
and, have two commissioners work on their project, and same as like all of the other ones.
got it. Thank you.
Can you, is there one that worked that exactly that way? Just that, where the owner sort of found out about it and then filled out the application and applied? Because I know some of the, some others we sort of approached them and had ideas and things like that.
Russell, are any of yours that way, that someone, I mean, we have had a few that
Well,
have,
yeah, if I can interrupt, we do have one currently going on, which is the Skylark Hotel. And they actually approached us, so I fed all of the information through Sarah on the project. So it was they who approached us, but and also it was the same with Michael Braun, who owns the Rowan Hotel with Full Cycle, and Diane's Beachwear. So he approached us. There were a couple that I approached the landlord. So it's sort of half and half.
Right.
yeah, and we have a few that are like in progress that, the El Mirasol approached us and for another business. So I think it's kind of 50-50. A couple have approached us, but it just didn't get followed through with, like they didn't have the time to really devote to it. So,
Right.
Okay.
but we keep reaching out to all of them.
Okay.
Then
So I guess, do we need a vote or anything on this, or are we?
Yeah, we are voting on it, and if we want to amend it, we need a motion.
Right, so Tracy, you just wanted to add open businesses in one of the two bullet points under types of care grants? Or
Yeah.
are you,
Yeah, number 2, storefront activations, installations with an eye on temporarily or permanently closed or open businesses.
or open businesses? Okay. All right, can I make a motion that we adopt the continuation of the CARE Neighborhood Grants Program through the end of December 31st, 2021, with the aforementioned addition to point 2 under types of care grants to indicate all open businesses?
I'll second that motion.
So do we have a vote on that?
We just do the aye.
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 Aye. Another unanimous vote.
Yeah, it's awesome. Okay. Sorry, I'm going back and forth between all these
Documents. Yeah.
documents.
So now 2B is the popsicles piece?
Oh, so this is Richard.
C2B, sorry.
Right.
Item C2B.
Yeah, so this proposal, this is an artist, John Cerny, who was brought to us. He's a Salinas resident who makes these fantastic cut-out plywood art installations. He's done a lot of them along highways around California. So he approached us with the proposal to do a series of popsicles, which is in the photo attachments that you have. The piece is going to be approximately 8 feet high and 20 feet wide. And in my goal to spread art around our city, I've been looking at what to do on sunny dunes. So when I looked at this proposal, being a frequent visitor of Townie Bakery or Bagels place, looked across the street at the empty lot that is now 577, I think is the street number. Yep. Oh no, pardon me. It's the other one. 605 East Sunny Dunes. So I reached out to the property owner and got a very, very enthusiastic, yes, indeed, we would love to have this on our property. So we have submitted a land use permit through planning department because we need to do that to site the art installation. And then Anne has included a draft of the loan agreement. And originally the artist was not asking for any funds other than his installation cost, which is going to run around $1,400. We thought it seemed appropriate that we should actually add some money so that we do actually pay him a fee for the loan of this art installation. So that's why we're asking for the approval of $3,500 plus city fees, which would be the land use fee, which I'm not sure what that is, but I would imagine it's probably less than $200. I don't know if Cindy has the dollar amount for a land use fee. But anyway, the proposal.
Don't know that one. I'm sorry.
That's okay. But the proposal is to accept this loan through the end of December 31st of 2021. And with the artist fee of $3,500 to be paid once the art installation is in place.
Does the payment include maintenance as needed if should any?
Yes.
Or,
What's
and are we
the
paying
date?
expenses? I mean, for him to come down and things like that, or?
No, this $3,500 is all inclusive except for the additional land use permit fee that we would pay.
What's the base made out of?
It's all wood construction. So the support system is a series of 4x4 treated beams that get mounted into the ground. And then there's cross supports on the back. Sort of like, if you can picture what a billboard looks like, it's sort of along that same sort of structure. But it's he's done these along highways, so he mounts them very securely, so there's no wind factor. They're not going to blow over or blow away.
So do we have to get an engineering? Because
No.
aren't we back at the I'm totally blanking on the artist's name. Movement, moment, change, right? With
yeah,
all the engineering stuff and the wind blowing and.
Yeah, but it was a much more significant size and heavy metal thing. This one is just plywood and very securely mounted on 4x4 posts in the ground. So it's really, I mean, they're already on this lot, there's a sign, a for sale sign. So granted, this piece is a couple of times bigger than that, but it's essentially we're just putting up a sign. So the only thing that the city required us to do is the land use permit.
So it's different from the picture. It looked like it had like a base. So this doesn't have a base.
Well, the base is actually a series of hands that are holding the popsicles. So that would run along the bottom horizontal length of it. And then the popsicles are vertical.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And Russell, you said there's a significant amount of foot traffic in that area.
Oh, yes, Townie
There's a
Bacon, if
decent
you haven't been
amount.
there on a Saturday or Sunday, they
Excellent.
have like 20 people waiting to get in all the time. And I've reached out to merchant representative Mike, blanking on his last name. He owns Little Shop of Antiques, and he is extremely enthusiastic about some art activation coming to their neighborhood, and in particular the popsicle one. He absolutely loved it. So as a representative of the Merchant Association, we have approval for it. And as we've been trying to do, reaching out to other neighborhoods to bring art activations to smaller neighborhoods. This is a prime example of a neighborhood that does get lots of traffic, but it's a little bit sad looking because across the street from Townie, there's the vacant lot. There's the building that's now boarded up that we're going to do another art activation on it. There's an auto mechanic shop. There's the lumber yard next door. So the neighborhood needs a little help.
Yeah, but I think there's also I mean, there's a lot of businesses that are open in that, like in the Townie strip and stuff. And so, so it'd be nice, you know, to sort of jazz up that area because
absolutely. Yeah.
there's lots of businesses there that are open
Yeah.
that I'm sure would like to see a little love, like you said.
Is
Yeah, and that's what
is the closed one the Pilates? The Pilates?
I don't know if that's open or closed.
I don't think they would allow it to be open.
So that's not the closed one you're thinking of, across from Townie?
Well, the site for the popsicle is a vacant lot, which is currently for sale.
I
So-
see.
And then the other art activation that we'll talk about at some point, I'll give you the update, is at 577. It's a building that was glass front. It had windows that I've been looking at, but I hadn't reached out to the property owner. And then the city requested that they put particle board over the glass windows because of break-ins and other incidents. So this now falls into an approved art activation because it's on temporary art activation on boards that the city has requested the property owner put on. And they too are absolutely thrilled that we're willing to do an art activation on the property.
So where is the empty lot again? I'm just trying to picture it. Is it next to the Pilates place?
Yes, if you went west from the Pilates. It's
Right,
going from, I
okay.
don't know, the cross.
Yeah,
street.
there's like the corner has the Pilates place and I think like some kind of designer, it's like almost like an office building, right? And then you're saying right next to that is an empty
Yeah,
empty
going
space.
west of that,
towards Palm Canyon. Yeah.
toward Indian Canyon and then Palm Canyon, yeah.
Is that, and then is it the auto place after that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause I think it goes from the auto place to then the break in the place where you go back to the antique places, and then there's the vintage car place on the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's sort of mid-block on the
Great.
south side.
I think it's a great way. I think it's a great, you know, we're finally focusing on some other neighborhoods, which I think is terrific because that's been a goal of ours. And if the neighbors and like it, I mean, that's all the better, right? I mean,
Oh,
that's
it
like
is,
you
yeah.
already have lots of support for it among those business owners. So it sounds great.
Yep, they were thrilled.
So do we have any other discussion on this?
Well, I think it's great. You know, we listen to the voices in our community, and we're visionaries. You know, that's very important as an arts commissioner. That's great work, Russell.
Thank you.
Lots of hugs around.
COVID-free hugs.
Can we have a vote?
Yes, can I ask for a motion on this?
Can I
I'll
make
make-
a motion for my own thing?
I don't know. I'll do it. This is
All right, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the loan of the sculpture titled Popsicles by John Cerny to be installed at 605 East Sunny Dunes for the fee of $3,500 plus the land use permit fee.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it. All right, whatever.
All in favor?
Aye.
I
Okay, next, Russell, you have your wording. item 2C.
C2C.
Yeah, and thank you to Cindy for resending me the wordage. This came up after we did the plaque for the totem on Arenas, the rainbow totem. And over the last year, we had done a couple of plaques, but there had never been any, what's the word? Any input from the city as specifically what the wordage had to be or should be, and a process for approval for that. I just thought that we could do them, so we went ahead and did one. So there's one item that Cindy and I will work out with the city manager, but the requirement from the city right now is that they would have just the name of the piece, the artist name, and then what we will sort out is that the city objected to us putting the social media contact for Randy Mendry, who is the artist of the Rainbow Totem. And then, so we still want to, at least I do, still want to insist that the city allow us to do a social media presence for the artists to help promote them, as we've done on all of the approximately 70 benches that we've done downtown. They have the artist social media tag and then hashtag PS Public Arts. So I'm hopeful that the city will agree that we can move forward with doing those on any future plaques, because I do want to have the plaque redone for the Pride Totem so that people know what it is, rather than it's just this thing standing on the sidewalk. And then the other change was I had written that it was purchased by the Palm Springs Public Arts Commission, and the wordage needs to be purchased by the City of Palm Springs Arts Fund. So going forward, when we decide to do plaques, and when I write up the type for the Pride Totem, I will use the correct city approved language and then give them the wordage that they will approve it, and then we'll make the plaque, as opposed to making the plaque and realizing we said the wrong thing and the plaque gets taken away and discarded, which happened in this case. So it's just a matter of whenever we have an installation and want to do the piece, we'll write up what we want to say and submit it to the city manager's office for approval and then do it. So
Can we add the year of the piece of art on there as well, like artist name, year?
I guess that would sort of be okay. The one reason I am hesitant is the AstroTurf Chaise Lounge that's in front of the Skylark Hotel, where we're doing a window art activation. I think that was installed in 2008, something like that. I took a picture of the plaque. I could pull it up, but it just seemed like it made it dated, even though the installation doesn't, now that it's clean, doesn't really look dated. So
Just because it's like a standard way of denoting art, right?
yeah.
If I can add, Russell, I did have a chance to talk to the city manager about your request to include the social media hashtag for the artist. So, and he agreed, provided that it's maybe not as large, the font. I mean,
Okay.
the city, the key is to promote the city's public art fund, necessarily the artists, and
Okay.
and not that that's not important too, but perhaps that can be added with just maybe a slightly smaller font.
Oh, sure. Yeah, and certainly we now know that when we submit it to you, we will identify what the font size is for each one. So
yeah, that might be helpful.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, we can do that.
So I'm just curious. So when you say plaque, you're talking about like an actual physical plaque that's like fabricated by a fabricator, or you're talking about
yes.
just?
No, an actual plaque. It's for the Pride Totem I had through the sign company on Gene Autry, Best Signs. I'm blanking on the actual name.
Yes.
Yeah, with the brushed steel engraved, screwed to the sidewalk, flat plaque, which is a cost of, I think the cost of was $260 approximately. But now that's discarded, so we have to start over again.
Because
yeah,
I'm a little concerned. I mean, back to this issue of the artist hashtag. I mean, since these are things that are meant to be permanent with the piece, and I just worry that, you know, like somebody's hashtag might become inactive or something, right? You know, like, because they're sort of ephemeral by nature, right?
But these pieces, including the rainbow totem, is a temporary installation. It's not meant to be there permanently. So if we determined that something went awry with the artist, then we would address that and remove it. Because it's the same thing with all of the benches that are downtown. They all have the artist's social media tag on them.
But that's a little different because it's just painted, you know, like it's not as like permanent as like making a plaque, right? You know.
Well, yeah, like what if they're, like if the plaque, is the plaque meant just to be 1 year or is it meant to stay for 10 years?
Well, as I was saying, especially with the Pride totem, it's meant to be only temporary. So I guess technically December 31st of 2020, we should have readdressed. Oh no, because we only, I lose track because here Pride is in November. So it was installed for Pride. So at some point we would have to readdress whether it stays or not.
I think maybe if we're doing permanent plaques,
But
I don't think
we
it
don't have to, yeah, we don't have to decide whether or not we're doing the plaques. It was just for us to determine what the language of a plaque needs to be, and each one has to be written for an individual piece and submitted to the city attorney for approval. So that's something that we would do at each time. This is on the agenda just for sort of a point of clarification as we move forward, how we address plaques for any individual piece, whether they're, and they're all going to be temporary.
Yeah, maybe like temporary ones have hashtags and maybe permanent ones don't, and you go to the website and you can get the artists.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah, because when we address doing a permanent art installation, then we're going through city council approval anyway, so they would have to verify the language of the plaque. But these are more specific to temporary pieces that we're doing.
It would be great to have the year on them, though. You know, so that would be like 220, you know, the totem, and just so people know, like, oh, did someone create this work just for this? It's, you know, 220, or did they make it in 2008 or?
Right.
Oh yeah, we could put, yeah, Pride Totem, comma, 2020.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, so when I write up the new wordage for this, I'll run it by Anne and a couple of commissioners and then send it to the city attorney's office.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
So official on that. Okay, so
we're skipping C3, right?
So we're skipping, yeah, C3.
And
so Russell, again,
there's no D, I guess. D for disappear.
Yeah, it's weird. Like the numbering on this is and then we go to 4 and 5, which is weird. Russell, do you want to do an update on your benches?
Well, yes, and the update is that I'm very happy to report that we're doing the final 2 benches.
Yay.
One is at the convention center. Zachary Fleming is doing that one, and he's probably, I don't know, half finished. And the other one that's finishing up, and I really want to impress upon my fellow commissioners, if you have a moment of time, swing by, because this one's got a great story. The bench that is on the corner of Ramon and South Indian Canyon, at that intersection that has all of the bus stops and unfortunately a lot of transient people hanging out. But anyway, the artist who was selected for this bench, Manny Dublin, was in a motorcycle accident last year. So he's now in rehabilitation, but he's still in a wheelchair most of the time. He's coming back full strength. But when I was talking with artist Susan Gresto as she was painting one of the benches at the airport, she was friendly with Manny through one of their arts associations and mentioned that she had had the accident, etc. So she suggested that she and a couple of other artists support Manny in getting his bench completed. So Tyson and Susan have been working with Manny to actually make his bench. So it's just a great story that these other artists came together for this poor individual who was injured in an auto accident and is now getting his bench done. And I was there chatting with him today. He's just so thankful that he was able to complete his vision for this bench, and in a situation where on top of COVID and everything else, he gets injured and is getting rehabilitated. So getting the money in his pocket is just beyond wonderful.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
So those are the final two benches. The only other thing we have to sort out is and Cindy, I don't know if you can give me some update on getting the orange bench and trash bin moved from behind City Hall that was rejected from in front of City Hall to 479 Tockwitz, where the owner of that property, where we're doing an art activation that we just finished, is thrilled both with the art activation and would love to have the bench and bin in front of his business or building, pardon me.
Don't have an update on it, but I'm happy to ask the city manager about it.
Yeah, because they've submitted the letter from the property owner, including both his support for the window activation, which he saw a couple of days ago and is absolutely thrilled, but he wants the bench and the bin too.
Okay, I'll follow up on that.
All right, thanks, Cindy, appreciate it.
Well, Russell, again, they're just fabulous. I love seeing them on my walks,
Yeah.
My COVID walks, and so it's just been a real joy to see them and talk about them and discuss them, and sometimes meet the artists and mention. They're just really delightful, and I'm glad it all worked out in the end, and that they weren't put into landfill, which again, remember, we have to remind ourselves where this whole started, that they were all going to be taken away and thrown into landfill, right?
Yeah, at the cost of like $500,000, and what did we spend? Not even 100,000. So, but yeah, and the other uptick is there will be a map, there will be a poster, so all of this is also in the works, so they're going to be immortalized. So.
Awesome. And we should get them all on the website. I know there's just a representation of them, but that's something that, Sarah Madeline did last year, was get all of the, our history of the past few years up on the website with all of our projects. So I think we definitely should have all of the benches under, whatever bench project of 2020, 2021. So each bench would be on there with the artist's name and.
Well, excuse me, we'll have the bench map, so maybe that's something that can just be integrated or linked to it, however.
That's kind of become our, since we don't have access to our kind of past history, that was why I wanted to get that project up. So we have the history from when we basically have been on the commission till now. So everybody knows what we've been doing.
Right, and the website looks amazing.
Yeah, that was a good COVID project. Now we're still in COVID, which is weird. So, Shonda, do you want to give an update on your Stop in the Name of Love?
Should be renamed Stop Loving. Tahooey. Oh, drama with this one. Okay. Let me tell you the shenanigans that have ensued with this project. So I'm happy that the city approved it in the last city council meeting, which was necessary, but not necessary, but it wasn't really supposed to be approved, but it was approved. But anyway, all that hoop jumping, I got through it. And now I would like people to vote on it, but again, another traffic stop of not being able to publicize it in order for people to vote on it, because I guess not everybody's happy with it being on a website for people to vote on. Originally, what I wanted to do was I wanted to open it up to everyone in Palm Springs to be able to vote on what box they wanted in their neighborhood. And then when those neighborhoods got those votes, then we would go to that neighborhood and go to like 1PS, whoever that neighborhood heading, and then say, hey, we did a poll these are the results. People in your neighborhood said they wanted these particular boxes. And so now it's up to now you all to decide which box they want, since the people have spoken. And I wanted to have more traffic come to the website and it be more visible. But I am being told that that's not a good idea, and more chefs in the kitchen, and that's not going to work. And yeah, so right now there are no artists chosen for it because I want to send out the vote. I want it to have online interaction, but now it's being stopped and put to a smaller group of people. So
So I understand this change. Would it be, maybe, would you be comfortable adjusting it so that, I'm not sure, I assume the neighborhoods are still meeting virtually, but maybe at least at a neighborhood meeting, not just a board meeting, but like an actual open neighborhood meeting, and maybe gave people a chance to vote, a chance to vote on some at a forum like that. So at least there's some public input.
well, I just got the email a few minutes ago on 3 different options, but from what I'm understanding, the first email was like no more than 20 people could use the vote to vote. So I guess the way it's set up for some odd reason. But yeah, and I was also told that we could add artists to the universe of boxes, and now I'm told we can't add artists to that universe. So yeah, so I'm getting a lot of stop and starts. Love, no love, love, no loves.
A lot more stop than love. Right?
Oh, I'm gonna put on the drama. This is killing me. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how, I mean, because I'm really trying to get a project off the ground during COVID, and I'm trying to get a new project started and get these boxes done. But I can't choose anybody, I'd like to choose Paint the City Peaceful because they're an organized group in order they can paint the boxes and stuff like that. And they submitted, and some of their artists submitted, but I guess there was confusion with the deadlines and they didn't get it in on time, but yet some of their artists are on there, but some of the artists aren't on there. So yeah.
Why don't you think of it this way? It sounds like it would be very labor intensive and lengthy to try to put something on a website to have the entire city vote on it. You'd have to have some kind of ability to, a software ability to do that. That just doesn't seem like it's in our wheelhouse.
Well, it was
But what
set
if,
up like that.
but-
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Tracy. The way the ballot was set up is where people would say what neighborhood they were in. So then we would know, okay, they would like these boxes for this neighborhood, and that would give us a lead. Other than, I mean, now it's just going to go to 1PS, and I guess 1PS will figure it out on how to go about, the
well,
box.
what I was trying to say is that if you don't want to go the route of just going through, the neighborhood board, right? The neighborhood council board or whatever. Why don't you ask 1PS, like the people that, you are part of 1PS, right? Like the people who are representatives to give you names of people in their neighborhood. So it's not them, right? So it's not the board picking things for their neighborhood. And they nominate, I don't know, 5 or 6 people from their neighborhood to look at the things and vote for their neighborhood. Then that would be a lot easier, right? It would, maybe it's an Excel thing that, could be sent out, like the one that Sarah's done, or there's a pop-up Zoom meeting and people get a packet and then they kind of vote on the ones that they like. I think that might be a much like less time consuming, less expensive way of doing it. And then if the artists didn't really know, like if it wasn't advertised that they would be, all of their submissions were going to be, open to the public to see. I don't think you can really put all of their work out there without asking them to give approval of that ahead of time, right? Because normally when you submit something for a show or a proposal, you're not submitting it into the general public. You're submitting it to whatever committee or whatever jury, to the organization. You're not submitting it to the general public. So some of their pieces, that they might not be ready for prime time, or they might not want, their pieces advertised all over. Or if they don't get one of the jobs, maybe they don't want people to see that they even applied for the job. So, I'm coming at it without being part of this, your subcommittee. It's just a few ideas that I'm
Oh,
throwing.
those sound like brilliant ideas. I just had the idea of public art, the public actually being able to vote for public art of the public art they wanted to see. But I'm getting a lot of pushback, and I understand like that's not what is going to happen. So I'm cool with it. It'll eventually get done.
What about, I don't know if we've done this, but would it be possible to do like kind of like an Instagram vote, or use, I mean, I think partly it may be too many. I think at some point there's going to be, maybe it would work better if you jury down, say, to some like 5 designs and say, let's have a vote, what would you like to see? And then maybe put it on the Instagram thing. Is that like, would that be, but then I don't know how you could limit it to Palm Springs residents that way. But I'm just thinking maybe it's like too unwieldy, right? With like tons of artists and tons of input. So maybe like kind of narrow the funnel a little bit and still have lots of public input, but don't have so many choices that it becomes too hard to manage. That might be another way that you might be able to get the public input that you're looking for, in terms of, and being able to bring one to fruition.
If I may, I just want to reiterate, because John and I had a conversation a couple of days ago, just having gone through 3 phases of the bench painting project. And as I suggested to Shonda, reaching out to 1PS for them to determine who their little subcommittee is. So whether it's 3 people, it's 5 people, a couple of commissioners, our chairperson, Tyson, who should be brought into the project to supervise the artists. So you have a voting pool of approximately 10 people, which is what we did with all of the bench phases. We're reaching out to Main Street merchants, the north end of town, the south end of town. We included merchants from within those neighborhoods. And it was a very efficient process. We just lined them up. We had the vote scale of 1 to 5. And then we did a Zoom meeting for possible placement. And then Tyson and I actually selected which artist got placed where and then approved by the committee. And Shonda, working with Tyson, should do the same thing, where they, once the selections come in, you determine what the best artistic flow of all of the utility boxes are within each phase, which is how we worked out with benches, and it worked seamlessly and with no complaints.
Yeah, I just had a bigger vision that I'm not getting supported on. So, but it's okay. I mean, it's like everybody wants to do it the same way they want to do it. So doing it differently than the way that it's been done. So I understand, like, they're not open to that. Like, I get it. Like, you're supposed to work with this person and do it this way and this and this. So I get it.
Do you think you could talk to Madalena about doing some kind of Instagram thing, like voting
Well, it
on
was up on the
Instagram?
website. It was up there, and then it was taken down, and then like it was. I mean, if yeah, I was trying to get more people to the website for us to have more foot traffic. So then that bounces off to the Instagram and the Facebook, and then it just gives the art commission more, visualness, lack of a better word, that people can actually go to the website and it's interactive. Like, oh, I can actually vote on art. Oh, this is so cool. It just brought more people in, but I'm understanding that that's not what people want. The commission doesn't want more people in. They just want,
I don't feel that way. I personally don't feel that way.
Okay, good.
Right.
Well,
We've always engaged, the community, and there's a life cycle. I've attended, for example, other arts commission meetings, let's say Desert Hot Spring. I'm not sure if I should say that. And there were almost fist blows when it came to these utility boxes and getting them done. So there's a natural life cycle. So, stay encouraged is what I'm trying to say.
oh, thank you for that little vote of encouragement. I just wanted it, like, the city's never gotten the opportunity to vote on public art. So I just wanted to open that up for something new. And I thought it would be kind of cool, even if it was only 3 or 10 or 30, it didn't matter how many people. It's just that the opportunity is there, that the Public Art Commission is reaching out to the public to say, hey, you can, help choose what kind of box you want to see. So it was more of an interaction of like, oh, wow. I mean, I haven't come across that in any public situation, unfortunately, but maybe it's too lofty of an idea to
I
try
don't
to.
think it's too lofty. I think I would encourage you I think there needs to be a little bit of jurying, because I think if you put, 100 designs out there, it's like, it's too much, I think there needs to be some kind of jurying down,
So
of
maybe I'm not,
artists, and
like,
then maybe put it out to the public and say 3 designs, 5 designs for a particular box or something, you know what I mean? So, I mean, it doesn't have to be the same 3 artists, but I think there needs to be some kind of narrowing of the choices, so that you can,
right.
because it might be too overwhelming. But I think, if it's on Instagram, if it's on the website or whatever, but I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, if I may,
Did you
the
look
voting
into-
process that we did should be able to be adapted to follow Shonda's vision. Because if you're doing the utility boxes in phases, where the first phase has 12 boxes, if we have 20 artists who have submitted proposals for those 12 boxes, then Sarah just set up the voting ballot that we did. So you get the picture of the bench proposal, of the box proposal, scale of 1 to 5, vote. I mean,
my question is, how are people voting? Like, have you looked into how people would actually physically do this vote? It has to be some kind of software
Well,
solution to that. So that's.
maybe I'm not, maybe I'm not coming across clear enough. The whole vision, the idea about it was, I don't know if you guys can't see that.
No, I
When the
understand your vision. I'm just saying, if you want an entire city to vote, are you going to like purchase a Survey Monkey for it, right? Or are you going to, how are the people going to vote? There has to be an end result to the vote, and you have to have some kind of method to vote. So is it Survey Monkey? Is it some kind of like voting system that we would have to purchase, and we would have to have someone set up? I think if you look into that stuff, I think then it could be an idea that embrace. But I think if there's no, like, you can't just say, oh, we're gonna all vote and then, the whole city votes. When, purchasing these products, it has an expense attached to it and time involved in it. So.
Yeah, I understand that, and it's already been done and it's already in place. So
No, we
I
just have an Excel sheet that people vote on. You just send it by email and people vote on an Excel sheet. That's nothing that we couldn't send like an Excel sheet out to the entire city.
Well, the one that I just received, which is a voter survey, has the first and last name, the email, what neighborhood you live in, and top 3 artists chosen for Stop in the Name of Love utility box, and then you submit it. And then my idea was kind of like the American Idol thing, like Anne suggested, that like everybody votes and then it goes down to one PS or a subcommittee, and then they're able to choose the boxes from there. But I mean, we're talking, there's a lot of boxes that are available to us. And yeah, I just wanted the ones I wanted to get. So I'll figure it out. But I mean, there's a way to do it that I don't think will cost that much. I would have to ask her. Sarah's here. If the Zoho survey, is that a cost, and is that an unlimited amount of people can vote on that? Or, I mean, from what I'm getting is that people aren't going to vote on it anyway, because, like only a couple neighborhoods would vote. And then if just a couple neighborhoods would vote, that's where we would start, where we see people that want it to happen in their neighborhood.
Hi there. So yeah, I have, right now what we use is like the Google Forms, and those work really well for just what we've been doing like on a smaller scale, just because it takes all the information and then organizes it in a Google Excel. The worry is that we have 41 artists submitted, and then if we had like, let's say over 50 people voting, then it might get really hard to figure out a way to organize all those votes based on, when you go through the Excel document, it might just get a little bit out of control. I mean, we could try it. I've never had any like that many people vote on these Google documents, and that was my only worry for it. But something like SurveyMonkey is like a paid service that I think they're better at organizing these kind of things and having better options and better ways to organize all the answers and stuff like that. But I mean, we do have the Google Forms in place. It might be a little bit more cumbersome to sort through all the answers, was the only concern that I had for me.
And then if I may just interject, if people aren't wanting to vote, to connect with some of our American vets in the community that are organized, our nurses union, not to get political or anything, but there are groups, and organizations that would be glad to vote and produce some of the art, perhaps. Just a sidebar. That's all.
I mean, if it's less, go ahead.
Oh, Al, all the artists have already submitted.
I understand, but in the future,
Yeah. Yeah, I just think you have to think through like, the method of voting and how you would do it and how you would advertise it.
whatever you do, don't give up. It has a life cycle.
Yeah. Just, may just take.
But I don't, so I'm done. I'll get with Russell and figure it out and see if there's, because that's my greater vision, is to actually give the public a chance to vote at least on one box. I mean, all of the other benches. They've all been done by committees. Everything's been done by committees. And I just really wanted the people since we're public, but I
Yeah, well, why
recognize.
don't you find like one location, right? Like one location that's very, maybe the super location of the box that someone would want, and then put that one box, you might have to hone it down from 41 artists, but, and then put that out there as like, the city speaks. I mean, that would be cool. You could go put a sign on that box, that's coming up, and, it could advertise it. It could be really cool, so.
It
But
could
that would be a lot of.
Okay. Yeah, I will continue to try to my best to figure it out. And for right now, I really, I guess just going with the old system, because it seems like that's the direction I'm being pushed in.
Well,
I
yeah,
don't think, I don't feel that way at all. I think
Okay.
there's some solution, and
Yeah.
it just needs a little bit more talking out, and it will
Okay.
work somehow, but it's just, just keep seeking input, and I think it'll work. But I like the concept. I totally agree with your idea of having public input and sort of voting, or whatever you want to call it. It's just a process issue, that's all, and it'll work. Like Al said, it's it has a life. It's in its somewhere, wherever it's in the cycle, but there's definitely a solution, and I
Yeah.
think it's a great idea. So please don't give up.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't want to give up on it. It's just that the artists are clamoring to find out when it's going to get chosen, and when
Right,
this
right.
process is going to, because I was given more obstacles to overcome when I got it to one point, then it was another one. So this is just another obstacle that I just have to figure out how to do it. It seems like Russell and the bench crew have like a handle on the way to do thing, and they've got that cranking out. So maybe we'll just crank out a couple of that way, because that's the way everybody, like not everybody, but I'm being shown where to go. So
Yeah,
so
but I think though, working with Sarah, if you're doing phase 2 that has 12 benches, you can take our limited vision and just like go a few steps more forward and more open with that one. There's got to be a way that Sarah can figure it out for you.
yeah, I mean, whoever has the most experience of my lofty ideas of helping me to execute them, then that's awesome. But I really just want to get more artists, a diverse group of artists, and the public
Yeah,
involved.
I don't know how Instagram works, but I mean, it seems to me like there must be some kind of Instagram tool for like polling or something, right? I mean, like, or where people post something and they want feedback somehow, right?
Yeah.
So maybe I don't know.
But then it
It
runs
doesn't
into like
sound that hard.
Tracy's subject of, do the artists even want it out there? Like that, like I didn't think of, I mean, I
Right,
think
right.
that if they submitted, they knew that, there's a process that it has to go through in order to be chosen. So I was under the impression that, going through that process, that's why they submitted. But if they don't know up front, that's a process they're going through, then I understand Tracy's point of,
Right.
maybe some
Thinking
art.
that it's a limited jury and not the whole world or whatever.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, like it just sounds like it needs some more working through. I wouldn't feel discouraged at all. We're trying to buck you up, and we all totally
Every
believe
meeting.
in bringing more artists and bringing more public awareness. That's why I joined the commission. So everybody's on that point with you, and yeah, just and I would not feel shy about telling the artists it's taking longer. Don't feel bad about that. This is not, the mini mart that you go down the street and pick up your item right away. Like people, if they have to wait, they have to wait. That's, and it's not it's not something bad. Things just take longer, and we're not, we're a governmental thing. We're not just a regular store that, the owner can make a decision right away. So, and we have to work with consensus and everything with the city. So I wouldn't feel shy about telling, sending them an email and saying, thank you for your submission, and we're working on it. We're working on it as quickly as we can, but it might take some time. So, yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. That was an awesome discussion. Hopefully that was somewhat helpful.
So other E3, other mini grants?
So maybe that could be me kind of, but I'm just going to say that we are working through getting approvals for the one still. And I'm going to bring a proposal for a new project to the next meeting that could be mini grants, but really isn't. So I'm really excited to share that with you. So that will be a little surprise for our next meeting.
Okay. So moving on to 4, I guess it's E4, is it Commissioner comments, reports, requests? I'd like to just give a quick report on the work of the Art Collective, which is now up and running, and their contract is back on track. And so they've already started working on the pieces. They recently did some maintenance work on the 3 Core 10 steel pieces near the airport, on that median that runs along Kirk Douglas Way. And they said those are in pretty good shape. There's some bird droppings and things like that are kind of staining it, but they feel confident that just continued cleaning will kind of alleviate that, and that nothing major needs to be done.
Well, that's good to know, because I noticed that part of one of them was missing.
Oh,
And I
really?
didn't know, it's like, what's going on with this?
So
yeah,
so they're cleaning. So they did a cleaning on those. They
perfect.
did. Sorry, where are my notes here? And then they also did a little visit to those sales, the pieces on Gnot Tree that we don't know who did them or who owns them. And again, they're not about to blow into the road, so that's good. And they're not about to, blow off and kill somebody, but there is some corrosion around the bases and things like that. But the problem is we don't know who the artist is. So, one of the things that Art Collective was saying was that normally you go to the artist and you say, what kind of paint was it, or what color, that kind of stuff. But since we don't know any of that information, we're not sure how to proceed. So that's kind of a separate issue, because we all seem to agree that it's not part of our collection, but anyway, that's so coming up next.
Would you consider it art, or it's just decor? That's
decorative, right? I know.
Yeah, like I don't know if it was ever even made to be art, right? So maybe there isn't even an artist.
Right. Oh, that's true. They did a little cleaning on the Help Is on the Way piece outside the police department, which again is also in very good shape. They just recommend continued maintenance. There was some debris on it, I think, that they cleaned off, but they said that's in generally good condition, and just general waxing and things like that. So the next group that they'll be working on are the ones on that list that we looked at not too long ago. The Batter, the piece by the sports arena, the Wave Rhythms, which I think is that piece in Sunrise Park, the Our Hero piece by Barone, and the Intersecting Cubes on is it Tamarisk and Palm Canyon?
Yeah.
And Lucille Ball and Chairman of the Links. So anyway, so the bottom line is they're up, they're running, they're cleaning, they're on schedule. In terms of the subcommittee, what we'll do now is like those this is essentially those pieces that we voted on. There was like 20 or 21 pieces a couple months ago. And so part of us first sort of subcommittee would be just sort of looking, what are the next 20 pieces? So, but essentially we're finally at this point where they're working regularly on the pieces and maintaining them the way they need to be maintained. So very happy about that.
Awesome.
So that's my report.
Thank you. Does anybody else have comments or reports, commissioners?
Yes. Just an FYI, the Palm Springs Black History Month Committee has Black History Month posters in all of our parks in conjunction with Parks and Recs, I believe, the City of Parks and Recs. And the feedback has been pretty good. Lastly, at some point in time, before getting off of the commission, I hope and pray that we can get some kind of art piece there on in the north end, the entrance to Palm Springs. I believe it's Tram Road and Indian off of Rosa Parks. There's already a pad there.
Where we looked, you're talking where we looked a long time ago, right?
Yes. We've got to put something there.
Wasn't there a big Palm Springs sign there at one time?
Yep.
Yes.
They took it down.
Why?
Yes.
It's gone.
Because they designed those beautiful square ones that are in the media.
They keep getting run over, right?
That people hit.
Does the city have any of the signs in storage, or were they all like sent to the landfill? Is there any?
Supposedly
Good
they
question.
had that one in storage. There was only one that they took down, that beautiful sign.
It was kind of a fun, like 50s looking one.
Yeah. But that's all I have.
It's a great spot, Definitely something.
Can you raise that out of the dead? Hey, Cindy, any suggestions? Jay, hello.
I don't know what happened to the yard. Unfortunately, I'm not in that loop.
But I mean, that's a great example of a piece where we could do what a real public arts commission should do, which is you meet with the community, you get input from the community. It's a long process.
Yes.
But that's how it sort of goes back to Shonda's point. I mean, that you really want the public to have, and there are groups that do that. Like you may recall that Branded Art, who we talked about a few years ago in terms of doing some projects. That's exactly what they do. They did a big project in Los Angeles where they spent months talking to people in the neighborhood, getting input, and then then that input is actually what drove the development of the piece that finally, I think it was a mural in this case, but I don't recall exactly. But I mean, that's that process that I always would like to see happen. And this would be a great example of, trying to start that process and have the piece really grow organically, from the public. But it does, again, to Shonda's point, it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of feedback. But that's really the way it should be done. I would love to see something like that happen.
Al, why don't you start a committee for that and work on it?
Well, Yanni and Commissioner Yanni and I looked at it and several other sites. I'll get with him again if he's available and if anybody else wants to work on that site. But or even beyond, for those of us who come off the commission in June, to have something there,
I think what the process needs to be is we need to work with a consultant and hire a consultant to then manage all of this public and things like that and sort of shepherd it through to the fruition of a piece. That's how I think it should work.
Okay. And that's not because of the neighborhood, but I'm just making a joke.
No, it's because there needs to be one person who knows how to pull all that together.
I'm just teasing.
Don't you talk about my hood like that. I'm gonna come for you.
You know, black folk, we got to jump through hoops, man. You know, that's, I'm just teasing.
They got me circus clowning over here.
No, you're good. I'm just teasing.
So Jay, will we be able to find out like if that sign is available? Like what's the next step in finding out if that, you know, vintage sign's available? Because if Desert Highland Gateway Estates doesn't want it, maybe another neighborhood want it, or we want to re-erect it as, you know, a relic. Like here, there are dinosaurs in Palm Springs.
Yeah, we'd probably start with our facilities crew, any crew that may have been responsible for taking it out and then tracking it from there. I mean, as a sign, it's sort of a public works. And so it's not necessarily in an inventory for art or anything that's tracked as a city asset. So we don't know what the disposition of it was, but we can definitely look into that.
We can make some inquiries, certainly.
Yes, I love inquiries. I want to know. I want to know.
It was such a great, you know, it was such a dynamic entrance to town, that sign. It was so beautiful. I cannot believe they took it down. But if they, you know, that spot is such an opportunity to welcome people to town, and then with a piece of art, right? So to have that same dynamic, fluid entrance, you know, because it was so dynamic. You know, if you had something that conveyed that same spirit, right? That would be really awesome in that spot.
Oh,
Okay. Any other commissioner comments, reports, requests?
when Alicia does the inventory, stuff that is in storage that the city owned and store, like, is that included? Like, we'll find out what treasure trove is available to us. I'm so excited.
There's no treasure. Trust me, there's no treasure trove. I've been there. But
Well,
yes,
it
it will be
certainly
all the
includes-
pieces that are in the collection. Right?
I know there's a lost Basquiat in there somewhere to save the city. Come on, people, dig.
And Alicia, I think the painting behind Jay might be one of the paintings on the
Oh, wonderful, Jay.
I recognize that artist. So
I think there's one in your conference room too, Jay.
Yeah.
So they're there. They're not missing. They're there. And they're in plain sight. That we just have to sort of
We'd just rather not see them.
put them into the right format.
We'll find them.
Okay, good deal. I'm eager to see what you find.
Me too.
I get first dibs on the first priceless relic you find.
was there any report from director or staff?
No.
No, thank you.
Okay, cool. So I think we killed it today. The only thing that's different is if we don't have any more comments, we'll adjourn, but we're going to not adjourn to this date, actually, next week. We're going to adjourn, the Public Arts Commission will adjourn to a special meeting on Thursday, March 4th at 10 a.m., which will include a public hearing on the Desert X mural by Felipe Beaza, which is they gave a presentation to us a few weeks ago.
So that's a special meeting? Is that
for the mural, public hearing?
Can we just say Desert X mural proposal?
Yeah.
So do you want me to make that motion?
Oh, sure.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting to a special meeting on Thursday, March 4th at 10 a.m. to discuss a Desert X mural proposal.
I'll second that.
Everybody in favor?
Aye.
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 All Okay, we're adjourned.
Thank
Nice
Bye,
to see
everyone.
everyone.
Hey.
Thank you for coming,
All right,
Alicia.
bye.
Too bad we can't see each other in person.
Soon.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Bye.
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 Great job, Tracy.
Oh,
Even though I
thank
came
you.
in late.
Tracy.
Everybody.
Sorry I missed it. I had an audition that was running late. So I was like, come on, people, let's do this.
No worries.
I had to fake pretend